The desperate cry of the forest was silent. Only the soft wind moved the trees and the sound of leaves filled the night air. A lone man walked slowly along a narrow path. His name was Daniel, a simple human who lived far from the city. He came here often to clear his mind, to escape from noise and people. But tonight felt different. The air was heavier and he felt as if someone was watching him. Then it happened. A voice, soft, broken, and filled with pain, suddenly echoed inside his head. "Please, human. Please help me." Daniel froze. He looked around. There was no one. The voice had not come through his ears. It was inside his mind. His heart began to beat faster. "Who's there?" he whispered. His own voice sounded too loud in the quiet forest. Again the cry came stronger this time. "Help me! The enemies are coming for my mother." "You're my only hope." Daniel's breath caught in his throat. The words were desperate, full of fear, almost like the voice of a child. He felt his hands tremble. Was he losing his mind, or was something real calling out to him? Curiosity and fear fought inside him. But the voice, it was too real, too painful to ignore. His feet began to move on their own, following the echo inside his head. The deeper he went into the forest, the stronger the voice became. Finally, he reached a riverbank. The moonlight reflected on the water, silver and calm. But at the edge of the river, half hidden between stones, lay a small figure. Daniel's eyes widened. It was not human. A young girl, no older than 10, lay there. Her skin glowed faintly like soft blue light under her flesh. Strange patterns, almost like stars, moved slowly across her arms. Her hair shimmered like liquid silver, and her eyes, when they opened weakly, were large and filled with both fear and hope. She coughed, a weak sound, and again her voice entered his mind. "Please, help me, before they find me." Daniel knelt down, his mind screaming in shock. An alien, a real alien child. Yet despite the fear, he felt something else. Pity. She was so small, so fragile, and clearly in pain. "What happened to you?" Daniel asked, though he wasn't sure if she could hear. Her lips moved slightly, but the words came not from her mouth but directly into his head. "They attacked us. My mother, she is taken. The enemies, they will come for me next. Please, human, you are the only one here. You are my only hope." Daniel's heart pounded harder. He looked around the dark trees, suddenly aware of every shadow. Enemies? What kind of enemies? And why did she choose him? He wanted to run, to pretend none of this was happening. But when he looked into her glowing eyes, he couldn't. She was just a child alone, afraid, begging for help. He carefully lifted her into his arms. She was lighter than he expected, almost weightless. Her body was cold, yet the soft glow of her skin seemed to warm his hands. Then in the distance he heard it, the crunch of heavy steps, mechanical and slow. Lights flickered between the trees, moving closer. His stomach twisted. Whoever the enemies were, they were already here. The alien girl clutched at his shirt, her weak voice trembling in his head. "Don't let them take me. If they do, my mother will die. And your world will follow." Daniel's breath stopped. Your world will follow. What did that mean? Did she mean Earth was in danger too? There was no time to think. The lights grew brighter. Dark figures moved between the trees, tall, armored, and inhuman. Their movements were silent, but the ground itself seemed to shiver beneath their steps. Daniel's instincts screamed at him. Run. He tightened his grip on the alien child and turned, racing into the darkness of the forest. Branches scratched his arms and roots caught his feet, but he kept running. Behind him the shadows followed, silent but unrelenting. His lungs burned, his legs ached, but the girl's voice kept pushing him forward. "Please, don't stop. My mother, only you can save her. Only you can save us." At that moment, Daniel realized his life had changed forever. He was no longer just a man walking through a quiet forest. He was now part of something much larger, something dangerous, something he did not understand. And as the first beam of red light cut through the trees behind him, hunting him, he knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. The silent pursuers, Daniel ran as fast as his legs allowed. The alien girl pressed tightly against his chest. The forest that once felt peaceful now looked like a trap of shadows and twisted branches. His breath came in sharp bursts and his heart hammered like a drum. Behind him, strange red lights moved smoothly through the trees, searching, hunting. The girl's glowing skin was both a blessing and a curse. In the darkness, it lit his way like a weak lantern, but at the same time it risked giving away their position. He pulled his jacket over her body, hoping to hide the glow. "Who are they?" Daniel whispered, gasping for breath. "What do they want with you?" The girl's eyes opened, weak but clear. Her voice slid softly into his mind. "They are hunters, servants of a greater power. They were sent to capture me and destroy my mother." Daniel's chest tightened. "And me? If they find you, human, they will kill you too." The words were cold, final. A branch snapped nearby. Daniel froze. His ears picked up the heavy steps of something not human, too precise, too strong. Slowly, he moved behind a thick tree, pressing his back against the bark. He held his breath, praying the shadows would pass. Through the thin gaps in the leaves, he saw them. Tall figures, at least 7 feet high, walked with mechanical grace. Their armor was black like stone, with red lights glowing where their eyes should have been. Their hands carried weapons that hummed quietly, like machines waiting to strike. They moved in silence, scanning the area, searching. Daniel's skin crawled. He had never seen anything like them. They were not just soldiers. They were hunters, built for this moment. The girl clutched at his arm, her telepathic voice barely a whisper. "Don't look into their eyes. If they see you, they will not stop until you are gone." Daniel turned his face, pressing against the bark, trying to make himself part of the tree. The hunters paused, their red eyes glowing brighter, and for a terrible second, Daniel thought they had spotted him. Then, just as quickly, they moved on, disappearing deeper into the forest. Daniel exhaled slowly. Relief filled his chest, but it didn't last. He knew they would not stop. They were following tracks, sounds, even the faint glow of the girl. He couldn't stay in the forest forever. He shifted the girl's weight in his arms. "We need to find a safe place. Do you know anywhere we can hide?" The girl closed her eyes, her face pale. After a moment, her voice returned inside his head. "There is an old human building nearby, underground. I can feel it. Go north near the broken rocks." Daniel hesitated. "How do you know?" "I can sense the walls. The metal remembers. Please trust me." He didn't understand her words, but he had no choice. Trusting her was the only path forward. He began moving north, forcing his tired legs to keep going. Each sound in the forest made him jump. Each gust of wind carried the fear of being discovered. Still, he pressed on. Minutes later, he saw it. Hidden behind overgrown bushes and stones was the rusted entrance of an old bunker, left from wars long before his time. The metal door was broken, hanging on one hinge. Daniel pushed inside. The air was damp and smelled of rust, but the thick walls gave him a sense of safety. He placed the girl gently on the floor. She looked fragile, her glowing skin dimming. "Rest," he said softly. "You're safe now." But the girl shook her head weakly. "No, not safe. They will find us. They always find us." Daniel felt anger rise inside him. Not at her, but at the unseen enemies who hunted a child with such cruelty. He knelt in front of her. "Then tell me what I'm dealing with. Who are they? Why are they after you and your mother?" Her eyes filled with tears that sparkled in the faint light. "My mother is a protector. She holds the key to stop them. They want her power. Without her, my people will fall, and Earth will follow." Daniel's blood ran cold. Earth, his world. Somehow this child's war was tied to his own planet. He stood, pacing the small space of the bunker. He was just a man. No weapons, no training, nothing that could match those armored hunters outside. But if what she said was true, walking away wasn't an option. Suddenly, a sharp sound cut through the silence, the metallic clink of something falling against stone. Daniel froze. From outside the bunker, red light spilled through the cracks in the doorway. Shadows shifted, slow and deliberate. The hunters had found them. The girl's voice trembled in his mind. "They're here." "Daniel, please, don't let them take me." Daniel's fists clenched. Fear ran through him, but so did something else, determination. He couldn't let her down. Not now. The door creaked, the sound of metal tearing under pressure. Red beams cut through the darkness. Daniel pulled the girl closer, his mind racing. He had no weapons, no plan. But he had one clear thought. If he was the only one standing between this child and the hunters, then he had to fight. Even if it meant dying. The hidden refuge. The metal door groaned as something powerful pressed against it. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest, his back against the cold wall of the bunker. The girl clung to his arm, her glowing eyes wide with fear. Red light from outside slipped through the cracks, moving like the gaze of monsters waiting to enter. For a moment, Daniel thought it was over. But then silence. The pressure stopped. The hunters outside did not break the door. Instead, their heavy footsteps echoed as they moved away, slowly, patiently. Daniel realized the truth. They weren't leaving. They were circling, waiting like wolves around a wounded prey. He exhaled, trying to steady himself. "We're trapped," he whispered. The girl's voice entered his mind, soft but urgent. "No, this place is old, but there is more below. A deeper refuge. If we can reach it, they will not find us so easily." Daniel looked around. The bunker was nothing but broken machines, rusted metal, and dust. "More below? I don't see anything." She pointed a weak hand toward the far corner. Daniel rushed there, pushing aside fallen pipes and rubble. His fingers scraped against the floor until he felt it. A metal hatch, almost hidden under years of dirt. With all his strength, he pulled it open. A ladder stretched into darkness. Daniel lifted the girl carefully and climbed down. The air grew colder as they descended, filled with the smell of damp earth and old steel. At the bottom, he found a long corridor, walls lined with forgotten equipment. Faded symbols were painted on the walls, human military markings from decades ago. The girl's dim glow lit their path. Her voice whispered again. "This was a human refuge. Your people built it to hide during wars. They left, but the walls remained strong." Daniel walked carefully, his boots echoing. The silence was heavy, but it was safer than above. He found a small chamber with broken bunks and an old table. He placed the girl down gently. She leaned against the wall, breathing slowly. For the first time, Daniel allowed himself to sit. His whole body trembled from exhaustion. He stared at her glowing skin, the strange moving patterns across her arms. "You should rest," he said quietly. But the girl shook her head. "No time, they won't stop." "They never stop." Daniel leaned forward, his eyes locked on hers. "Then tell me everything. Who are you? Who is your mother? And why am I the one you called for help?" The girl lowered her gaze. For a long moment, she was silent. Then her voice filled his mind again, soft but full of weight. "My name is Lyra. My mother is Serenia, the guardian of the Veil. She protects my people from the dark hunters, the ones you saw. They serve a greater enemy, a force that consumes worlds. My mother holds the power to keep them away. Without her, we are lost." Daniel felt his chest tighten. "And you? Why are they after you?" "Because I am her daughter. Through me, they can control her. If they take me, they will break her will." Daniel rubbed his face with both hands. It sounded impossible, like something from the old stories he used to laugh at. But the fear in her voice, the wounds on her body, the hunters outside, everything was real. "And Earth?" he asked carefully. "You said my world would follow." Lyra's glowing eyes rose to meet his. "Your world is not safe, human. The hunters are not just here for me. They are watching Earth, testing it. When my mother falls, they will come for your people next." The words sank deep into Daniel's mind. His chest grew heavy. He had spent his whole life thinking he was ordinary, powerless, just one man. But now somehow the fate of two worlds was connected to him. He stood, pacing the small chamber. "So what do we do? How do we stop them?" Lyra closed her eyes as if searching inside herself. Finally, she spoke. "We must reach my mother. She is being held in their stronghold far from here. Alone I cannot. But with you, maybe there is hope." Daniel stopped. "Me, I'm not a soldier. I don't have weapons, why me?" Her voice trembled in his mind. "Because you were the one who heard my cry. Out of all humans, you were the only one who listened. That means something. The Veil chose you." The Veil. He didn't understand the word, but the way she said it made his skin prickle. Before he could ask more, a sudden sound shook the chamber, a distant metallic thud followed by another. Dust fell from the ceiling. Daniel's eyes widened. They found the entrance. Lyra struggled to stand, her legs weak. "We must go deeper. There is another passage. Hurry." Daniel grabbed her hand and followed as she guided him down another corridor. The walls grew narrower, the air colder. Behind them, faint echoes of claws against metal grew louder. At the end of the hall, Daniel saw it, a huge steel door, half buried under debris. He pulled, but it wouldn't move. "Help me," he grunted. Lyra placed her glowing hands on the door. The strange star-like patterns across her skin spread, pulsing brighter. With a low hum, the old lock clicked and the door slid open, revealing a hidden chamber untouched by time. They stepped inside, and the door sealed behind them with a heavy thud. Silence returned. The chamber was larger than Daniel expected. Old control panels lined the walls, and in the center stood a strange machine, still glowing faintly after all these years. Daniel looked around, breathless. "What is this place?" Lyra's voice whispered with awe. "This is the true refuge, a place even the hunters cannot sense. For now, we are safe." For the first time that night, Daniel felt his chest loosen, but deep inside he knew the safety would not last forever. The hunters were patient, and somewhere out there, Lyra's mother was still a prisoner. This was only the beginning of a much greater fight. The truth revealed, the hidden chamber was quiet, almost too quiet. Daniel's breath echoed against the steel walls as he looked around. Old machines lined the room, some broken, others still glowing faintly with weak lights. It felt like stepping into the past, a forgotten part of human history. Lyra sat on the floor, her glowing skin casting a soft light across the chamber. Her small chest rose and fell slowly. She was exhausted, but her eyes remained fixed on Daniel. He finally broke the silence. "You said your mother is a guardian. What does that even mean? Why would anyone want her?" Lyra lowered her gaze, and for a moment Daniel thought she would not answer. But then her voice filled his mind, calm and heavy. "My mother, Serenia, holds the veil. It is not a weapon, not in the way you understand. It is a shield that hides worlds from the dark hunters. Without it, they see everything. They invade, they destroy, they consume." Daniel frowned, pacing across the chamber. "Consume, you mean planets?" Lyra nodded weakly. "Yes, the dark hunters serve something greater, something that feeds on life. It spreads like fire through the stars. My mother's veil has kept them away from my people for centuries, but now they have captured her and the shield is breaking." Daniel rubbed his face with both hands. This was too much. He had woken up this morning as an ordinary man, and now he was hearing about monsters from the stars that devoured entire worlds. "And Earth?" he asked slowly. "You said my world would follow." "How do you know?" Lyra's glowing eyes lifted to meet his. "Because Earth is close. Your people don't see it yet, but the hunters are already watching you. They test your defenses, they study your lives. Without the veil, your planet will be next." A cold shiver ran down Daniel's spine. He thought of his world. Cities full of people, children playing, families living ordinary lives. None of them had any idea what waited above the stars. For a long moment he said nothing. The silence grew heavy between them until Lyra spoke again. "You wonder why I called you? Why you, when there are billions of humans? The truth is, I did not choose you. The veil did." Daniel froze. "The veil? What are you talking about?" "The veil is more than a shield. It is alive in a way. It searches for voices, for hearts willing to listen. When I cried for help, it reached you. That means you are not just ordinary. You are part of its choice." Daniel laughed bitterly, shaking his head. "I'm not a hero. I don't have weapons or powers. I'm just a man who works, eats, sleeps, and walks in the woods. That's all." Lyra's small hand touched his arm, her skin warm despite the glow. Heroes are not chosen for strength alone. Sometimes they are chosen for their hearts. You heard me when no one else could. That is enough to begin." Her words struck him deeper than he expected. He remembered how he had felt that first moment in the forest. The desperate voice in his mind, the helplessness in her tone. He had not ignored it. He had listened. And now here they were. Daniel sighed and sat down beside her. "So if I help you, what then? How do we save your mother?" Lyra looked toward the old control panels. The hunters keep her in their stronghold. It is hidden, but there are signals. Old paths, memories left in machines like these. If we search, we may find the way. Daniel followed her gaze. The control panels were dusty and broken, but one of them still glowed faintly. He stood and brushed the dust off the screen. It flickered to life, showing symbols he didn't understand. Lyra stood slowly, placing her glowing hand on the panel. The strange patterns on her skin spread across the metal, and the screen shifted, changing into maps and images. Daniel stepped closer, his eyes widening. The display showed Earth floating like a blue jewel in space. Around it were faint red marks, small but spreading like stains on the map. "What are those?" he asked. "Probes," Lyra whispered. "The hunters are already here." They move in silence, preparing. When the veil falls completely, the full army will come. Daniel's stomach twisted. The images were terrifying. His world already being touched by something no human government even knew about. And your mother? He pressed. Lyra pointed at a darker mark far from Earth. There. That is where they keep her. But it is dangerous. The hunters do not leave their prisoners unguarded. Daniel studied the glowing point, his hands clenched into fists. He had never asked for this, never imagined himself in such a fight. But walking away was no longer possible, not when his world was at risk. He looked at Lyra, her small figure glowing softly in the dark chamber. All right. We'll find her, somehow. A faint smile touched her lips, though her eyes still carried fear. Thank you, Daniel. You do not know what this means to me. Before Daniel could respond, the walls shook. Dust rained down from the ceiling. The sound of claws scraped against metal again. Lyra's face went pale. They found the lower chamber. We must move quickly. If they catch us here, there will be no escape. Daniel's jaw tightened. He glanced once more at the map on the screen, fixing the location of her mother's prison in his mind. Then he reached for Lyra's hand. Let's go. If we're going to do this, we start now. The sound of metal tearing filled the air as the hunters forced their way closer. Daniel pulled Lyra toward the far corridor, deeper into the unknown. The truth had been revealed, but with it came a terrible weight. This was no longer just her fight. It was his fight too, and somewhere beyond the stars, Earth's fate was already being written. The enemy's trap, the underground corridor stretched endlessly before them, the steel walls groaning with age. Daniel's boots echoed as he guided Lyra through the darkness, her faint glow lighting the way. Behind them, the hunter's claws scraped against metal, drawing closer with every passing second. Daniel clenched his jaw. He wasn't a soldier, but he knew one truth. Running forever was impossible. They had to take the fight somewhere else. Finally, they reached a narrow stairwell that climbed upward. Daniel carried Lyra, her small body trembling from exhaustion, and pushed open a rusted hatch. Fresh air rushed in, cool and sharp. They emerged onto open ground. It was night again, the forest stretching out around them. But the silence was gone. Strange machines floated above the treetops, their red lights scanning the ground. The hunters were everywhere. Lyra's voice echoed in his mind. They are tightening their net. We must move toward the mountains. Their stronghold is there. Daniel looked in the direction she pointed. Faint peaks rose in the distance, dark shapes against the starlit sky. His gut twisted. Getting there meant crossing through the enemy's patrols. Still, he nodded. Then we move fast. They pushed through the forest, every step careful, every breath shallow. The machines hummed above, passing like vultures in the night. Daniel's heart raced each time one drew near. He pressed himself against trees, holding Lyra close, praying the red lights didn't find them. Hours passed. His legs ached, but his resolve grew stronger. He wasn't just protecting a child anymore. He was protecting Earth. At dawn, the forest opened to a valley. On the other side, the jagged mountains rose high, their slopes covered in mist. But Daniel froze at the sight below. A camp. Dozens of black-armored hunters patrolled the valley floor. Their weapons glowed faintly, their eyes scanning the area with inhuman patience. And at the center of the camp, a tall spire of metal rose into the sky, pulsing with a dark red light. Lyra gasped softly. That is one of their gates. It opens paths between worlds. If they complete it, more will come. Daniel's throat went dry. The camp wasn't just a danger, it was a trap waiting to snap shut. Yet he also knew the truth. If they didn't go through, they would never reach her mother. He crouched behind the rocks, watching the patrols. If we go in there, how do we survive? Lyra's eyes glowed faintly brighter. We don't fight them all. We use their own path. The gate can open a way to their stronghold, but it will be dangerous. If they sense us, we won't escape. Daniel let out a bitter laugh. So, we walk right into their teeth. Yes, she said softly, her voice shaking. But it is the only way. He studied her, this fragile child who carried the weight of two worlds. He thought of running, of leaving her and finding safety. But the idea disgusted him. He couldn't abandon her, not after everything. All right, he said finally, we go in. But if it's a trap, I'll fight as long as I can. They waited until the patrols shifted, then slipped down into the valley. Daniel kept low, moving from shadow to shadow. His heart pounded as hunters passed only meters away, their glowing eyes sweeping the ground. When they reached the spire, the hum of its energy vibrated in his chest. The metal pulsed with power, alive with something not of this world. Lyra placed her glowing hands on its base. The patterns across her skin spread into the spire, and the red light shifted, flickering. "It's working," she whispered in his mind. "I can open the way." Daniel scanned the camp nervously. Hunters were moving, their heads turning. They sensed something. "Hurry," he whispered, gripping a broken piece of metal like a weapon. His palms were sweaty, but his eyes burned with determination. The spire groaned, and suddenly a rip opened in the air, a swirling portal of light and shadow. Beyond it, Daniel saw strange towers rising, a world not like Earth. But before they could step through, a deep voice thundered in his mind. "Welcome, intruders." Daniel spun. The hunters had stopped their patrol. Every red eye was fixed on them. From the far side of the camp, a figure larger than the rest stepped forward. Its armor was blacker than night, its presence crushing. In its hand was a weapon that glowed like fire. Lyra gasped in terror. "It's a warden." They knew we would come. The hunters closed in, their steps pounding like drums. The spire's portal flickered, unstable under Lyra's touch. Daniel's breath came fast. They had walked straight into the trap. He tightened his grip on the metal shard standing in front of Lyra. "Stay behind me." The warden raised its weapon, its voice echoing with cold triumph. "The child will be ours. The human will be erased." Daniel's legs shook, but he held his ground. He had no plan, no strength to match them. Yet in his chest something fierce burned. He would not give her up, not to them. Not now. The hunters rushed forward and the trap snapped shut. The mother's power, the camp erupted in chaos. Red eyes flared. Weapons hissed and the ground trembled under the march of armored hunters. Daniel stood in front of Lyra, clutching the jagged piece of metal like it was a sword. His hands were shaking, but his eyes stayed locked on the giant warden. The warden's voice boomed inside his skull. "You are a fool, human. Do you think you can stand against us? Step aside and your end will be painless." Daniel's jaw tightened. His fear was real, pressing hard in his chest, but so was his anger. He thought of Lyra's terrified face, of her mother held prisoner, of Earth marked on that cursed map. Slowly, he raised the metal shard. "You'll have to go through me," he growled. The warden raised its glowing weapon, amused. Around them, hunters moved closer, their formation tightening. The portal Lyra had opened still flickered behind them, unstable but alive. "Daniel," Lyra's voice cried in his mind, trembling. "We cannot win here, but there is another way." Before Daniel could ask, she grabbed his wrist, pressing his hand against her glowing skin. A surge of warmth ran up his arm, and suddenly images filled his mind. He saw a great figure chained in darkness. A tall woman with silver hair flowing like rivers of light. Her eyes burning with power even as shackles bound her. Her voice was clear and strong. "Human. I am Serenia, guardian of the veil. Through my daughter I can speak to you." Daniel staggered, overwhelmed. "You're her mother?" "Yes, my enemies have caged me, but your presence awakens a path. There is something inside you, Daniel. Something even they cannot control. With it you can reach me." The vision flickered. The warden raised its weapon, energy crackling, and Daniel was thrown back into reality. Hunters were almost upon them. "What do I do?" Daniel shouted, gripping the shard tighter. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, her small hands shaking as she pressed them to the portal. "Fight long enough, and I will open the way to her. My mother's strength will do the rest." Daniel swallowed hard. He had no training, no armor, no plan. But he had one reason to stand, because running meant losing everything. The first hunter lunged. Daniel swung the shard wildly, sparks flying as metal struck alien armor. The blow barely scratched it, but it staggered the creature just enough. Daniel ducked, rolled, and kicked its legs, knocking it down. Another came from the side. Daniel blocked, pain shooting through his arms as the hunter's weapon clashed with his shard. He gritted his teeth, sweat pouring down his face. Each strike felt heavier than the last, but he refused to fall. Behind him, Lyra's glow grew stronger. The portal widened, light spilling across the camp. The hunters hissed in rage, realizing what she was doing. The warden roared. "Stop her!" 3 hunters rushed toward Lyra. Daniel's heart lurched. He sprinted, tackling the nearest one, slamming the shard into a weak point between its armor plates. Black liquid hissed as the creature collapsed. The other 2 loomed above Lyra, claws ready to strike. Daniel screamed and threw himself forward, knocking them aside. One claw ripped across his arm, burning pain exploding, but he didn't stop. He stood in front of Lyra again, blood dripping down his sleeve. "I won't let you touch her," he spat. The warden advanced now, towering like a dark mountain. Its weapon crackled with red fire, each step making the ground quake. "Enough. Human, your resistance is meaningless." Daniel's chest heaved, his body trembling. He knew the warden was right. He couldn't win this fight. His legs felt like stone, his wounds burned, his arms shook with weakness. But then he felt it, warmth against his back. Lyra's small hands pressed between his shoulders. Her voice entered his mind, fierce and desperate. "Hold on just a little longer. She's coming." The portal flared. From its swirling depths, a figure stepped forward. Chains rattled as they broke apart. Silver light spilled into the camp, brighter than the hunter's red glow. And there she was, Serenia, taller than any human, her hair flowing like rivers of light, her eyes blazing with power. The hunters froze. Even the warden staggered back. Serenia raised one hand, and with a single motion, the air itself shook. Energy rippled out like a storm, throwing hunters into the dirt. Their armor cracked, their weapons shattered. Screams of metal filled the valley as dozens of them were torn apart in an instant. Daniel shielded his eyes from the brilliance. When he lowered his arm, he saw the impossible. The camp was broken, the spire cracked, the hunters scattered like leaves in the wind. The warden, however, still stood. Its armor burned with red light, its weapon glowing fiercer. "So, the guardian returns," it growled. "But this time you will not escape." Serenia's gaze burned with fury. "You dare threaten my child and the world she seeks shelter in? You will regret this." She stepped forward, her presence bending the very air. Daniel felt power radiating from her, so immense it made his bones ache. He realized then, this was what true strength looked like. The warden lunged and the earth shook as guardian and monster collided. Light clashed with darkness, their power ripping the valley apart. Daniel staggered, pulling Lyra close, shielding her as shockwaves tore through the ground. His ears rang, his vision blurred. But through the chaos, he heard Serenia's voice in his mind. "Human, you are not finished yet. The hunters will return in greater numbers. But in you, I see the thread of resistance. Protect my daughter and protect your world. The fight has only begun." The warden screamed, its armor cracking under Serenia's light. With one final burst of power, she hurled it back into the broken spire, shattering both into pieces. Silence followed. The valley was in ruins. Serenia stood tall, her silver light slowly dimming. She looked at Daniel, her gaze both grateful and commanding. "You fought when all odds stood against you. For that, both our worlds owe you a debt." Daniel dropped to one knee, exhausted, his shard clattering to the ground. He met her glowing eyes, breathless. "I just did what I had to." Serenia's lips curved into a faint smile. "And that is what makes you dangerous to them. Remember that, human?" Lyra rushed to her mother, tears glowing as she embraced her. Daniel watched, his chest heavy with relief. For the first time, hope felt real. But deep inside, he knew Serenia was right. This battle was won, but the war was far from over. The final stand, the valley lay in ruins. Smoke drifted from shattered machines, and broken hunters were scattered across the ground like broken statues. The air hummed with the fading power of Serenia's light. Daniel leaned against a boulder, blood drying on his arm, exhaustion pulling at his body. He watched Lyra cling to her mother, tears running down her glowing face. For a brief moment, the world felt safe, but deep down he knew it wasn't over. The silence broke with a low rumble. The cracked spire pulsed one last time before collapsing completely, and in its death throes it sent a signal into the sky, a beam of red fire that vanished into the stars. Serenia's expression darkened. "They know. The High Hunters have heard the call. More will come." Daniel's stomach dropped. "How many?" Her silver eyes turned to him. "Enough to cover your world in shadow. They will not stop now unless—" She paused, her gaze steady. "Unless we make a stand." The ground shook. In the distance, the night sky lit with streaks of falling fire. Dozens, no hundreds of enemy ships breaking through the clouds. Daniel's throat tightened. Earth wasn't ready for this. No armies, no weapons, no warning. Just him, a child, and a mother who glowed with impossible power. Serenia placed a hand on Lyra's head, her voice soft but firm. "My child, you must stay behind me. The enemy does not want your life alone. They want your gift." Lyra's eyes widened in fear. "But mother, you cannot fight them all." Serenia's gaze flickered with sorrow. "No, but I can buy time. Time for Earth to awaken. Time for him." Her eyes moved to Daniel, to carry the flame forward. Daniel staggered upright, ignoring the pain in his body. "Wait, what are you saying?" "You can't do this alone." Serena's light glowed brighter, her presence almost unbearable. "I was born to guard the veil between worlds. That duty is mine alone. But you, Daniel, you have something they cannot predict. A human heart that refuses to yield. Protect my daughter. Lead her to safety. When the hunters come again, you will be ready." Daniel shook his head, his fists clenched. "No, I can't just run. I can fight too." Serena stepped closer, her towering figure casting him in silver light. For the first time, her voice softened with warmth. "You already did fight. You stood when no one else could. But survival is not weakness, Daniel. It is the seed of victory." Above them, the sky cracked open with fire. The hunters' ships descended, shadows blotting out the stars. Rows of soldiers poured from their vessels, eyes glowing red, weapons raised. The final wave had come. Serena lifted her hands, chains of light forming around her arms like armor. Her voice rang out, not in words but in pure power. The very air trembled. She turned once more to Daniel and Lyra. "When this ends, you must not look back. Promise me." Lyra's voice broke. "Mother, please." Serena bent low, pressing her forehead to her daughter's. For a moment, all the light and fire fell away, and it was just a mother holding her child. "I love you always. Now go." She pushed them gently toward Daniel, and then she rose. Her light burst outward, blinding, stretching high into the sky. The first wave of hunters fired, streams of red energy raining down. Serena caught them with her bare hands, her silver glow swallowing the blasts and throwing them back like meteors. The ground split, mountains shook, and the battlefield turned into a storm of light and shadow. Daniel grabbed Lyra's hand. She fought him, crying, trying to stay, but he pulled her away. His heart tore with every step. He wanted to fight beside Serena, to stand with her, but her words echoed in his head, "Promise me." So he ran, through the forest, over the broken valley, his lungs burning. Behind them, the sky lit with war, silver and red colliding in a battle too great for any human to comprehend. At last, they reached a ridge. Daniel collapsed, pulling Lyra close as they looked back one final time. Serena stood alone in the valley, her light a pillar against the endless swarm. Thousands of hunters circled, ships firing in unison, but she held them at bay, her power shaking the heavens. And then, she looked toward them. Across the chaos, across the impossible distance, her gaze found Daniel and Lyra. For one heartbeat, she smiled. Then the light consumed everything. The sky erupted, a wave of brilliance sweeping across the horizon. Daniel shielded Lyra as the blast roared past them, shaking the earth itself. When it cleared, the valley was gone. So was Serena, and with her the hunters' first wave had been destroyed. Silence fell again. Lyra sobbed into Daniel's chest, her small body trembling. She's gone." Daniel held her, his own throat tight. He wanted to break, to cry, to scream, but he couldn't. Not now. He stroked her hair, whispering, "No, she's not gone. She bought us time. She gave us hope, and we're not going to waste it." Lyra's glow flickered, faint but still alive. She looked up at him, her tear-filled eyes shining. "Then we fight together." Daniel nodded, his jaw set. He gazed at the sky where the stars still burned and more ships would surely come. His world was not safe. The war had only begun, but for the first time, he believed they could win. And as the night wind swept through the broken land, Daniel whispered into the darkness a vow that carried the weight of two worlds. "We will make our stand. And when they come again, we'll be ready."